I can't believe these 80s classics are already around 40 years old. Back in the 80s, they were a true revolution. Decades later, they still sound powerful. Today, we're traveling back in time to relive 10 legendary songs from the 80s that crossed generations and never lost their power. Will you remember them all? Let's begin. Michael Jackson was at the family home in Encino, California. He couldn't get the groove of Billie Jean out of his head. The song was written by Michael himself, and once the idea came together, he knew it had something special. Producer Quincy Jones later wanted to change the title because he thought people might confuse it with Billie Jean King, but Michael refused. The song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 7 consecutive weeks. Billie Jean became the defining hit of the Thriller album and helped turn Michael Jackson into the biggest pop star on the planet. This track, built around a bass line played by Louis Johnson of the Brothers Johnson, has already turned 40, yet it still feels more relevant than ever. That iconic drum intro and Michael's whispered vocal still send chills down the spine. And the lyrics still hit hard with a story of denial, pressure, and consequence. But if Billie Jean changed the sound of the 80s, the next song changed what people expected from music videos forever. Released in 1985 and carrying a perfect blend of urgency and romance, this a-ha song still feels like a chase scene in a dream, even 4 decades later. The riff came from Magne Furuholmen years earlier, when the song was still taking shape under different names before becoming Take On Me. It took different versions, failed releases, and years of rejection before the version we know finally clicked. For the band, that moment before the song's massive success, the one that pushed them from Norwegian obscurity to global fame, became the turning point of their early career. The groundbreaking pencil sketch music video turned a catchy song into a worldwide phenomenon. With its mix of live action and animation, it looked like nothing else on MTV. Take On Me climbed all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. a-ha managed to capture lightning inside a hit that transcends decades and generations. And it will keep feeling like a beautiful escape for many years to come. But while Take On Me turned a music video into a dream, the next song turned a simple crowd chant into one of Queen's biggest 80s anthems. Released in January 1984 in most of the world, though its roots trace back to 1983 sessions, Radio Gaga became Queen's last massive global hit before the Live Aid era redefined them. It was proof of their staying power and of the enormous mark they left on the history of rock and pop around the world. Radio Gaga tells a timeless story of technological change wrapped in massive production, irresistible handclaps, and Freddie Mercury's unmistakable voice. Its impact was so huge that it became an anthem sung by stadiums full of people who didn't even need the radio playing. And the best part is that its effect has not changed. All it takes is the first 30 seconds to feel the same urge to sing along today that people felt 4 decades ago. It is a reminder of that era when rock and pop were at their peak. If these songs have already taken you 4 decades back, hit like and subscribe so we can keep reliving the greatest music in our history together. But after Queen turned radio itself into a stadium chant, the next song turned pure fun and freedom into one of the most unforgettable anthems of the 80s. Cyndi Lauper released this song in 1983. She didn't write it, but she completely reimagined it. The original, by Robert Hazard, was written from a male perspective and had a completely different tone. Cyndi heard it and knew she could turn it into something else entirely. She pushed to record it her way, with a sound that felt like a party, not a statement. And she won. The result was a song that remains an ode to freedom, bringing people together and soundtracking celebrations to this day. 4 decades later, Girls Just Wanna Have Fun is still an invitation to let go. Its playful instrumentation, colorful production, and pure joy turned it into a timeless hit across generations. Cyndi Lauper did not only create a Billboard Hot 100 Top 5 hit, she created an anthem for a generation. The next song walks in like a dream you can't escape. Released on January 21, 1983, and driven by a synthesizer riff as original as it was relentless, this song became Eurythmics' breakthrough hit. The duo had struggled for years, releasing albums critics ignored and audiences barely noticed. In the middle of that frustration, Annie Lennox sat down at a synth in a home studio and played a simple sequence of notes.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to...
What followed was something they never could have imagined. They built Sweet Dreams around that riff and recorded it in a small studio above a framing shop. The process flowed so naturally that no one could believe their future global hit had emerged in such a spontaneous way. The lyrics capture the search for meaning and the world's material obsessions. 4 decades later, this studio accident still sounds cold, strange, and current. Now the dream turns into a storm, and the next voice sounds like the sky breaking open.
There's nothing I can do. Total eclipse of the heart.
Bonnie Tyler released Total Eclipse of the Heart in February 1983. It is a song with grand production, a huge chorus, and classic elements of that era. Its recording featured many musicians and voices, giving it that massive cinematic sound. Although it became the song that took her to the top, it did not begin as a simple pop single. Jim Steinman first imagined it with a more theatrical feeling. By reimagining it, Tyler gave it a new life. She replaced delicacy with a voice that sounded desperate, powerful, and unforgettable.
I really need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight.
The result was immediate. The song climbed to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Steinman himself loved the version, even though he saw the song almost like an opera. 4 decades later, it remains the most dramatic way to say, "I need you," instead of, "I'm fine."
Turn around, bright eyes.
Now the tears dry, the colors return, and the next song smiles like heartbreak never happened. Released in September 1983, this single almost did not exist in the form we know. Yet it ended up becoming an anthem for a generation. Boy George heard his bandmate Mikey Craig playing a reggae riff on bass. At first, George wasn't sure. He had never blended reggae with pop so directly, and the lyrics seemed too simple to become something meaningful. That was when producer Steve Levine helped push the idea forward. It didn't have to be complicated. It could be about anything he wanted. With that creative freedom, Karma Chameleon was born. By the time the song was ready, Culture Club knew they had something irresistible. It later reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became engraved in collective memory. Almost 4 decades later, Karma Chameleon remains intact. Now, the carnival fades, the night opens up, and Lionel Richie is waiting with a song built for everybody. Recorded in Los Angeles in 1983, and released as the lead single from Can't Slow Down, this song quickly found the attention it deserved. Its infectious groove, Caribbean flavor, and Lionel Richie's voice pushed it all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album, released that same year, was starting a meteoric rise. Although the 80s would eventually fade into the 90s, 4 decades later, Richie's unforgettable voice and that global party sound still feel fresh, as if time had never passed. All Night Long sounds like pure celebration, and that is exactly why it lasts. Its lyrics speak to the urgency to live in the present and hold on to the night with the line, "We're going to party, Karamu, fiesta, forever." The party may end, but the feeling stays engraved forever. Now tell me, where were you when you first heard these musical gems? Write it in the comments. We read everyone. Then the lights go down, the crowd disappears, and one quiet stare becomes the next unforgettable hit. Released on May 20th, 1983, Every Breath You Take is proof that even in a decade of huge, polished productions, a song with its own soul can cut through. Written by Sting, it was the first single from the Police's final album, Synchronicity. The lyrics present an idea as daring as it is disturbing. What sounds like a love song is really about obsession and surveillance. That made it a risky fit for 80s radio, but the public embraced it. Built around a simple drum beat and Andy Summers' unforgettable guitar part, the track reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 8 weeks. Decades later, films, shows, and radio kept giving it new life. Every Breath You Take remains an emotional mirror, mixing beauty, tension, and control in a way people still feel today. And just when everything gets quiet and cold, one final anthem comes in, fighting for hope on a prayer. Released on October 31st, 1986, as part of the Slippery When Wet era, this song catapulted Bon Jovi to worldwide recognition. The story began when John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, and Desmond Child were looking for the perfect anthem for the album. At first, John was not fully convinced, but when Sambora added the talkbox guitar effect, the song reached its final form. The band was known for pushing harder tracks, but once Livin' on a Prayer connected with crowds, there was no denying it. Recorded in Vancouver, the track soon became bigger than anyone expected. It reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a true 80s anthem. It played on radios, Walkmans, at parties, and in the memory of an entire generation. Tommy and Gina turned the song into more than a chorus. Almost 4 decades later, every time it plays, the spark of the 80s comes roaring back for one more night. These gems from the 80s show us that time only makes good music even better. And the most incredible thing is that there are even older songs, some over half a century old, that remain as powerful as ever. See you in the next video, my fellow rocker.